Hey, my name's Ryan Cole. I'm 28, and I live alone in a small two-bedroom apartment on the edge of Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood. It's nothing fancy, rent's reasonable for the city, but the place has that worn-in feel I've gotten used to. The sofa in the living room is an old leather thing with scratches from who knows what, probably the previous tenant's cat. The coffee table's got nicks and rings from years of careless mugs, and my bookshelf's crammed with accounting textbooks from college that I never got around to selling. The walls are plain white, no art or photos, just functional. I like it that way. No clutter, no distractions. My job's steady. I'm an accountant at a mid-sized firm downtown. I crunch numbers, balance sheets, track expenses for clients in tech and retail. It's not exciting, but it pays the bills, covers the rent, and leaves me with enough to grab takeout or hit the occasional bookstore. I don't chase promotions or overtime. I just show up, do the work, and head home. Life's predictable, and after growing up in a chaotic house back in Tacoma, parents always yelling about money, siblings slamming doors, I've come to crave the quiet. Seattle's rain helps with that. It drowns out the world outside my windows. I don't party much, don't date often. Relationships seem like noise I'd rather avoid. A few beers with coworkers every couple of months is about as social as I get. The one bit of noise I don't mind comes from next door. Chloe Harper, my best friend from high school. We met back in Tacoma during sophomore year, sat next to each other in history class, bonded over hating group projects. She's the kind of person who lights up a room without trying, always quick with a laugh or a sarcastic comment that cuts through the BS. After college, we lost touch a bit, but she moved to Seattle about 6 months ago for a freelance graphic design gig, and by some weird coincidence, her apartment ended up right next to mine in the same building. It felt like fate, or at least convenient. Chloe's place is a mirror of mine layout-wise, but she fills it with life. I can hear her old jazz records seeping through the thin walls, Billie Holiday's smoky voice, or Ella Fitzgerald's swing. It's not intrusive. It's comforting, like a reminder that someone's out there living. She blasts it while cooking or working on designs, and sometimes I'd catch snippets of her laughing on the phone or pacing during calls. It makes my quiet feel less empty. She moved in with her boyfriend, Derek Shaw. He's in tech sales, always dressed sharp, nice watch, that confident smile that borders on pushy. I've met him a handful of times. Handshakes in the hallway, small talk about the weather or traffic. He seems fine on the surface, successful, outgoing, but I've never warmed up to him. Maybe it's the way he talks over Chloe sometimes, or how he checks his phone mid-conversation. Chloe always looks happy around him, though, so I've told myself that's what matters. They're building a life together. Who am I to judge? That all changed on a Saturday night a few months back. I was at my desk in the spare room I use as an office, hunched over my laptop reviewing spreadsheets for a client audit. The rain was tapping steadily against the window, and I'd just poured myself a mug of black coffee. Strong, no sugar, the way I like it to cut through the late-hour fog. Everything felt normal until I noticed something off. Silence. No jazz from next door, no faint laughter or footsteps. Just the hum of my fridge and the distant traffic below. It was the kind of quiet that presses in, makes you aware of every creak in the building. I paused, staring at the screen but not really seeing it. Then I heard it. A muffled sound like someone trying not to cry but failing. It pierced through the wall like a needle, sharp and insistent. I knew that cry. It was Chloe's. Not the dramatic kind from a bad day, but the kind where you're holding it in so tight it hurts more. My stomach twisted. What the hell was going on? Should I knock? Mind my own business? We were friends, but this felt personal, like crossing a line. Before I could decide, there was a loud slam from the hallway, their apartment door, I figured. Heavy footsteps stomped away, followed by the ding of the elevator. Then nothing. The silence thickened, broken only by my own breathing. I stood up, debating. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I should text her. But then came the knock on my door. 3 soft taps, hesitant, like the person on the other side was afraid of bothering me. I glanced through the peephole and my heart stopped. It was Chloe. Her hair was a mess, strands sticking out like she'd run her hands through it too many times. Mascara streaked down her cheeks in black lines, and her face was pale, almost ghostly under the hallway light. She clutched her phone in one hand and a small backpack in the other, slung over her shoulder like she was ready to bolt. But her eyes, red, swollen, filled with a fear I'd never seen in her, hit me hardest. This wasn't the Chloe I knew, the one who joked through everything. I swung the door open without thinking. Ryan! Her voice cracked, barely above a whisper. I'm sorry to bother you. I don't know where to go. She took a shaky breath, her lower lip trembling. Can I stay here tonight? 1,000 questions flooded my mind. Where's Derek? What happened? Are you hurt? But I swallowed them all. She didn't need an interrogation, she needed a safe space. Come in, I said, stepping aside. Come on in. You're safe here. She hesitated for a split second, then crossed the threshold like someone escaping a fire. I closed the door behind her, locked it, and flipped the deadbolt. The click echoed in the quiet apartment, and I saw her shoulders drop just a fraction, like that small sound was the first real reassurance she'd had all night. I led Chloe to the sofa, gesturing for her to sit. I kept my distance, not crowding her, just enough space so she wouldn't feel cornered. Her backpack slipped off her shoulder and hit the floor with a soft thud, but she didn't pick it up. She just sank into the cushions, staring at her hands like they belonged to someone else. I could see her knuckles white from gripping the phone too tight. I'll be right back, I said quietly, heading to the kitchen. My hands shook a little as I rummaged through the cabinets. I found an old packet of hot cocoa mix tucked behind some expired tea bags, something I'd bought on a whim last winter and forgotten about. I boiled water in the kettle, the hiss of it filling the silence. Why was I shaking? Anger? Fear? I didn't know Chloe's full story yet, but seeing her like that stirred something protective in me, something I hadn't felt in years. When the water was ready, I stirred in the mix, watching the powder dissolve into a steaming mug. It wasn't much, but it was warm, something to hold on to. I carried it back and set it on the coffee table in front of her. Here, it might help? She looked up, her eyes still red-rimmed, and wrapped her fingers around the mug. She didn't sip it right away, just stared at the rising steam, like it was a lifeline pulling her back from wherever her mind had gone. I sat in the armchair across from her, far enough to give her room, but close enough to let her know I wasn't going anywhere. We sat like that for what felt like forever. Not the awkward kind of quiet where you're scrambling for words, but the kind where you're just waiting. Waiting for her to feel safe enough to breathe. I kept glancing at the door, half expecting a knock, or worse, like I was standing guard. Chloe's shoulders were hunched, her breathing shallow at first, but gradually they relaxed a fraction. Just a fraction. But it was something. Then, without prompting, she spoke. Her voice was hollow, like it was coming from far away. Derek's been different lately. She tightened her grip on the blanket's edge. I'd grabbed a thin throw from the back of the sofa and draped it over her shoulders. She flinched slightly when it touched her skin, a quick jerk that made my blood run cold. People don't flinch like that over nothing. It hit me then. This wasn't just a fight, this was deeper, scarier. I didn't push, I just nodded, letting her set the pace. For months now, he's angry at everything, she continued, her words tumbling out slowly. Work, money, the apartment, and me. She paused, swallowing hard. It started small. He'd check my phone, ask who I was texting, where I was going, what I was wearing. At first I thought it was just stress from his job. Sales quotas, long hours. I made excuses for him, told myself it would pass. Her eyes welled up again, but she blinked it back. I stayed silent, my fists clenched in my lap. Excuses? I'd heard that before from friends, from stories online. It never passed. Tonight we were supposed to go out, she said, her voice cracking a bit. That Italian place downtown. I thought maybe it'd be like old times, reset things. But he came home already pissed. He'd been drinking, smelled like whiskey from the office. Happy hour or whatever. He started in on me right away. Said I was a burden, that I didn't appreciate him enough. I tried to calm him down, suggested we stay in, order pizza instead. She let out a bitter laugh, short and empty. That made it worse. He accused me of ruining his plans, of always disappointing him. Chloe's gaze drifted to the wall like she was reliving it. I said we should talk when he was calmer. That's when he grabbed my phone off the kitchen counter and threw it. Hard, right at the wall next to my head. It shattered, glass everywhere. I felt a chill run down my spine. The image hit me. Chloe ducking, shards flying, and his face? Did he look sorry? Or just empty? His eyes. He realized what he'd done, but he didn't care. Not really. She set the mug down, untouched, and pulled the blanket tighter. I ran, grabbed my backpack. I always keep my laptop in there just in case, and bolted out the door. He didn't chase me. I sat on the stairs for 20 minutes, shaking, not knowing what to do. I called my cousin Hannah in Portland. She said, "Come stay with her as long as I need." But tonight, I couldn't face the bus ride. I just needed to breathe. Her words hung in the air, heavy. I leaned forward slightly. "You can stay here as long as you need, not just tonight." She looked at me then, really looked, like she couldn't believe someone would say that without strings attached. "Ryan," I shook my head. "No arguments. You take my room. I'll crash on the sofa." She protested weakly. "I can't kick you out of your bed." But I insisted. I dug out a clean t-shirt and some sweatpants from my drawer, stuff that would swamp her but at least be comfortable. She took them with a small nod, then surprised me by stepping forward and hugging me quick, desperate, her head against my shoulder for just a second. "Thank you," she whispered, "for not asking too much." I stood there in the living room after she went into the bathroom, listening to the water run, the shower, I guessed. The sound was steady, grounding. In that moment, a promise formed in my mind. Whatever had happened, tonight she'd be safe. No questions, no pressure, just safe. I woke up on the sofa to the faint aroma of coffee drifting from the kitchen. My neck was stiff from the awkward angle, and the blanket I'd grabbed was tangled around my legs. Gray Seattle light filtered through the blinds, another overcast morning. For a second, I forgot why I wasn't in my bed, but then it hit me. Chloe. The events of last night rushed back like a cold wave. I sat up, rubbing my eyes, and padded to the kitchen. There she was, already up, fiddling with my ancient coffee maker. She was still in my oversized t-shirt and sweats, her hair pulled into a messy ponytail, eyes puffy, but clearer than they'd been last night. She looked steadier, like she'd reclaimed a bit of herself in the quiet hours. "Morning," I said, my voice gravelly from sleep. She turned, a small smile flickering on her lips. "Hey, sorry if I woke you. I couldn't sleep much longer and I figured, coffee?" "No apology needed. Smells like forgiveness already." I tried to lighten it, and she let out a soft chuckle, the first real one since she'd shown up at my door. It was small, but it eased something in my chest. I poured myself a mug while she sipped hers, leaning against the counter. We moved to the kitchen table, the city slowly waking outside the window, cars sloshing through puddles, distant horns. It felt almost normal except for the weight in the air. "Last night was the first time in months I didn't lie there wondering what mood he'd be in when I woke up," she said quietly, staring into her cup. That hit hard. I set my mug down. "How long has it been like this?" She took a breath like gathering pieces. It crept in. At first, just words, snapping at me over nothing. Then the control. He'd make comments about what I wore, who I talked to, deleted my Instagram because he said I was seeking attention. Told me to cut back on freelancing because it was a waste of time when he was paying most of the rent. Her voice grew steadier as she spoke, like saying it out loud was reclaiming it. I stopped doing things I loved to avoid fights. Thought if I tried harder, it'd go back to how it was at the beginning. "You're not stupid for that," I said gently. "That's how manipulation works. They make you doubt yourself until you're the one apologizing." She nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. She wiped it away quickly. "Yeah, I see that now." Chloe pulled out her phone, cracked screen from the throw, I guessed, and checked something. Hannah texted back, "She'll pick me up at the Portland bus station if I take the 2 p.m. Greyhound. I can crash with her as long as I need." "That's good. Solid plan." I paused. "You want to hang here a bit longer? Get your head straight before heading out?" She looked relieved. "Yeah, if that's okay, a few hours would help." We finished our coffee and I suggested stepping out for fresh air. My apartment suddenly felt too small, too enclosed. "There's a cafe down the block. Decent pastries, no crowds this early." She agreed, throwing on her jacket over my clothes. The walk was short, the rain holding off for once. At the cafe, we grabbed a corner table. Chloe ordered a latte and picked at a croissant while telling me she'd already emailed a lawyer friend of Hannah's about the lease and getting her stuff out. I don't want anything that's ours. Just my clothes, my design gear, a few personal things. I nodded, admiring her resolve. Smart. Take it one step at a time. Back at the apartment, I finally checked my own phone. 3 missed calls from an unknown number. Then a text. Tell Chloe to call me. We need to talk. My jaw clenched. Derek, how the hell did he get my number? I deleted it without hesitation, my thumb hovering over the block button. I didn't tell Chloe. Not yet. She was finally breathing easier. I didn't want to drag her back into panic. As the afternoon approached, she gathered her backpack. I can lift to the station, she said. No way, I'll drive you. I grabbed my keys before she could argue. Non-negotiable. The ride was quiet at first, traffic light on the interstate. Chloe stared out the window, watching the city fade into suburbs. Ryan, I don't know how to thank you for this. Don't, just get to Hannah's safe. She turned to me, her voice soft. If things get bad again, you'll pick up if I call, day or night? Always, I said, no hesitation. You know that. At the bus station, I pulled into the drop-off lane. She unbuckled, then leaned over for a hug, firmer than last night's, less desperate. Take care of yourself, she whispered. You too. I watched her wave as she headed inside, backpack slung over her shoulder, until she disappeared through the doors. Driving home, the apartment loomed in my mind. It'd be silent again, no jazz, no footsteps. And for the first time, that silence didn't feel like peace. It felt like an empty space I didn't want anymore. The week after Chloe left dragged on like molasses. I went through the motions at work, balancing ledgers, emailing reports, staring at screens until my eyes blurred, but my mind was next door. The empty apartment mocked me every time I passed it in the hall. No music, no lights flickering late at night. Derek vanished for a few days. I didn't see his car in the lot, didn't hear any doors slamming. Part of me hoped he'd stay gone, but I knew better. Then, one morning as I headed out for work, there he was in the hallway. He looked rough, eyes bloodshot, stubble creeping in, and he reeked of stale whiskey even at 8 a.m. He spotted me and straightened up, blocking my path like he owned the space. Where is she? He demanded, voice low and edged with something desperate. I kept my expression neutral, keys in hand. I don't know what you're talking about. Bullshit. He stepped closer, close enough I could see the veins in his neck pulsing. She came to you that night. I know she did. My pulse spiked, but I held steady. She's not here. That's all I've got. I sidestepped him toward the elevator, not breaking eye contact. He muttered something under his breath, a curse maybe, but didn't follow. The doors closed and I exhaled, fists clenched. In the car, I texted Chloe. Ran into Derek. He's looking for you. Be careful. Her reply came quick. Thanks, I'm good here with Hannah. 2 weeks later, my phone buzzed at 11 p.m. I was on the sofa, half watching some documentary when Chloe's name lit up the screen. I answered on the second ring. Ryan? Her voice was different, clearer, more resolved, but still laced with tension. Hey, everything okay? Yeah, mostly. Listen, next week I'm coming back to Seattle to get my stuff. Hannah's coming with me. We're renting a U-Haul. I want you there, if you can. Of course, I said without thinking. When? Saturday morning, around 9? I'll be ready. Saturday rolled in gray and drizzly, typical Seattle. I paced my apartment, coffee in hand, until I heard the rumble of a truck outside. Peeking through the blinds, I saw Hannah pulling up in a white SUV towing a small U-Haul trailer. She was tall, with sharp features and a no-nonsense vibe, exactly how Chloe had described her. She got out, scanning the building like she was assessing threats. I stepped outside to meet them. Hannah spotted me first, extending a hand with a firm grip. You must be Ryan. Thanks for opening your door that night. No problem, I said, a bit awkwardly. Glad I could help. Then Chloe climbed out of the passenger side. I froze for a second. She'd cut her hair shorter, framing her face in soft waves, and she wore a burgundy sweater over jeans. She looked stronger, more grounded. Her eyes met mine and she smiled. A real one, not forced. "Hi," she said, voice warm. "Hi." I felt a dumb grin tugging at my lips, my hands suddenly unsure where to go. We headed up together, Chloe leading with her key. The door to her apartment swung open, revealing a space that felt sterile now. Modern furniture, clean lines, but cold, like it had never really been hers. "Just my personal stuff," she said, grabbing boxes from the trailer we'd hauled up. "Clothes, design tools, a few keepsakes, nothing that's ours." We worked efficiently. Hannah tackled the bedroom, packing clothes into suitcases. I helped Chloe with the living room and kitchen. She moved with purpose, but I caught her pausing now and then, fingers lingering on items like she was saying goodbye. In the kitchen, she opened a drawer and pulled out a set of old measuring spoons. Dented metal, well worn. "These were my grandma's," she said softly, turning them over in her hands. "I used to bake with them all the time. Derek hated the smell of sweets, said it was cloying. I stopped baking altogether." I took them from her gently. "Take them. And you'll bake whenever you damn well want to now." She looked at me, eyes glistening, then nodded, like reclaiming a piece of herself. We boxed them up, the clink of metal echoing in the quiet. We were nearly done, the U-Haul half-loaded downstairs, when we heard a car pull up outside. Tires on wet pavement, then footsteps in the hall, quick, heavy. A key rattled in the lock. The door burst open. Derek stood there, face twisted in shock and rage as he took in the boxes and us. "What the hell is this?" Chloe straightened, her voice steady. "I'm getting my things." He stepped inside, eyes darting around like he couldn't process it. "You can't just—" Instinct kicked in. I moved in front of Chloe, blocking his path. "Stop right there," I said, low but firm. "We're just packing her stuff. We'll be out soon." Derek's gaze locked on me, darkening. You're the one who put her up to this? Filling her head with crap, turning her against me?" "No one's turning anyone," I shot back. "She made her own choice." He lunged a step forward, face flushing red. Hannah was already on her phone, holding it up to record. "One more step and I'm calling the cops. This is harassment." That stopped him cold. He froze, breathing heavy, then shifted tactics, his voice turning pleading, almost whiny. "Chloe, come on, just talk to me, 5 minutes. We can fix this." Chloe stepped out from behind me, chin up. She looked at him long and hard, then shook her head. Simple. Final. "No." His mask cracked. "You were never good enough for me anyway," he spat, venom in every word. Chloe didn't flinch. She met his eyes. "You're right. I wasn't good enough for someone like you. I'm better than that." The air went still. Derek's shoulders slumped, but he didn't move as we grabbed the last boxes and headed out. He just stood there, watching, like the fight had drained out of him. We didn't look back. Down at the curb, loading the final stuff into the trailer, Chloe turned to me. "Thank you for standing there. For everything." I pulled her into a quick hug. "You don't have to do this alone anymore." As they drove off, Hannah at the wheel, Chloe waving from the window, I stood in the rain, watching the taillights fade. Chloe was stronger now, piecing herself back together. And me? For the first time, I felt like I'd changed too. Like that empty silence next door had pushed me to step up, to be there for someone. It wasn't just her fight anymore. Derek moved out a few days after that confrontation. I heard the truck rumbling in the parking lot one evening, saw him loading boxes through my window. No drama, no final showdown, just gone. The for rent sign went up on the door next to mine within the week. The silence returned, thick and unbroken, but it wasn't the peace I'd once chased. It was an echo, a hollow space that reminded me of Chloe every time I walked past that empty unit. No jazz, no footsteps, just me and my routines. But they felt emptier now. Chloe settled in with Hannah in Portland. We texted regularly at first, daily check-ins, then every few days as she got busier. She'd update me on therapy sessions. Learning to spot the red flags early, turns out I ignored a lot. Some days were good. She'd send photos of her new freelance projects, like a logo for a local coffee shop that got printed on mugs. "First one in ages that feels like mine," she'd write, and I'd reply with a thumbs up, feeling a quiet pride swell in my chest. Other days were harder. "Had a nightmare last night. Woke up thinking I heard glass breaking." I'd respond simply, I'm here if you need to talk. No pressure, just presence. She landed a part-time gig at a small design agency downtown Portland. Nothing fancy, but steady work that let her rebuild. Feels good to have my own money again, she texted one afternoon. I could picture her smiling as she typed it. Me? I started making small changes, ones I hadn't realized I needed. I dragged a chair out to the balcony one rainy evening and sat there with my coffee, watching the city lights blur through the drizzle. It was cold, uncomfortable, but it beat staring at walls. I experimented in the kitchen, tried making pasta from scratch instead of my usual scrambled eggs, burned the first batch but nailed the second. I even browsed adoption sites for dogs, bookmarking a rescue mutt named Max with floppy ears. Thinking of getting a roommate, I texted Chloe once, attaching the photo. She replied, he looks like he'd keep you on your toes. It was silly, but these shifts felt like I was learning to share my space, to let life in beyond the quiet I'd built like a fortress. April came with its unpredictable showers. One night, my phone buzzed at midnight. Chloe's name on the screen jolted me awake. You up? The text read. I called her back. Hey, can't sleep? Her voice was a mix of nerves and excitement. Ryan, I signed up for a design conference in Seattle next month. 3 days, staying at a hotel downtown. I want to see you, if you're free. My heart skipped. Of course, when? We set a date for dinner the first night. As I hung up, I lay there staring at the ceiling, a grin creeping across my face. It wasn't just about seeing her. It was the hope in her voice, the step forward. The day arrived and I got to the Italian restaurant early, 15 minutes, pacing the sidewalk in the cool evening air. My hands were clammy. I hadn't been this nervous since, well, maybe ever. When Chloe walked in, I nearly didn't recognize her at first. She wore a simple blue dress that caught the light, her hair a bit longer now, waving softly around her shoulders. She looked present, not haunted, not fragile. Alive. She spotted me and smiled, that real one that reached her eyes. Hi. Hi. I stood, pulling out her chair like some awkward gentleman from an old movie. We ordered pasta for her, risotto for me, and eased into small talk. Her job, the conference sessions she was excited about, my latest kitchen disaster, overcooked chicken. It felt like old times, but underneath ran a current, electric and unspoken. Over dessert, tiramisu we shared, she set her fork down and met my eyes. Ryan, I didn't come just for the conference. I nodded, heart pounding. I figured. She took a breath. I've been working on myself. Therapy's helped me see I needed to heal. Not just from Derek, but from thinking I had to fix everything alone. That night at your door, you gave me safety when I felt like the world was crumbling. But I didn't want to jump into something new out of need. I wanted to choose it because I was ready, because I want it. I reached across the table, taking her hand. It was warm, steady. I've been waiting for you. She squeezed back. Then don't wait anymore. We paid the bill and stepped out into the Seattle night. Cool breeze off the sound, streetlights casting golden pools on the sidewalks. We walked aimlessly, ending up in a small park overlooking the city skyline. The Ferris wheel spun lazily in the distance, a reminder of the world moving on. Chloe leaned against the railing. We'll take it slow, she said. Talk everything out. If I have a bad day, I'll tell you. If something feels off, you'll say so too. Deal, I replied, stepping closer. She turned to me, eyes soft in the low light. Kiss me. I didn't hesitate. The kiss was real, gentle at first, tentative, like testing waters we'd both been afraid of. Then deeper, her hands on my shoulders, mine at her waist. No fireworks like in movies, just a quiet certainty. The kind that comes from surviving storms and choosing to stand together anyway. We broke apart, foreheads touching. That felt right, she whispered. Yeah, I said, smiling. It did. Back at her hotel, she paused at the door, keycard in hand. Stay, not for anything more. Just stay so I can fall asleep knowing you're here. Like that first night, but this time because I want it. I nodded. Yeah, I'd like that. Inside, the room was simple. King bed, city view through the curtains. She changed into pajamas while I kicked off my shoes and sat on the edge of the mattress. When she climbed in, I lay beside her, the space between us closing naturally. Her breathing slowed, evened out, no flinches, no sudden wakes. Just peace. Lying there, listening to her steady rhythm, I stared at the ceiling. Love doesn't always start with grand gestures or sparks. Sometimes it knocks softly on your door in the middle of the night, scared and broken, and you answer with, "Come in." And sometimes, after the healing, it comes back stronger, choosing you right back. Chloe stirred slightly, her hand finding mine in the dark. I squeezed it gently, and for the first time in a long time, the quiet felt full.